The huge alien ship moved slowly through space toward Earth. Its metal surface gleamed in the starlight as it approached the edge of human territory. Inside the ship, nervous alien beings prepared for their first meeting with humans. They had heard strange stories about these creatures from Earth, but they wanted to see for themselves. Captain Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of his human ship, the Liberty's Edge. He watched the alien vessel getting closer through the big front window. His crew worked quietly around him, checking systems and making sure everything was ready. This was the most important day of his life. First contact with another intelligent species was finally happening. "Sir, they're sending a message," said his communications officer, pointing at her screen. Jake nodded. "Put it through." A strange voice filled the bridge. The words came through the translation device in broken but understandable English. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Zephyrian Council. We come in peace to learn about your people." "Welcome to our solar system," Jake replied into his microphone. "We're honored to meet you. Please follow us to our space station where we can talk safely." As the two ships moved together toward the human station, Dr. Lisa Thompson was busy in her personal quarters below. She loved studying animals, and her room was full of glass boxes containing different creatures from Earth. She hummed happily as she cleaned their homes and fed them fresh food. Lisa picked up a large spider from one of the containers. The spider was black and hairy, with 8 long legs and bright red markings on its back. Its fangs dripped with clear poison that could kill a mouse in seconds. But Lisa smiled as she let it crawl across her hand. "Good morning, Charlotte," she said softly to the spider. "Did you sleep well? You look so pretty today." The spider moved slowly up her arm, its sharp claws gripping her skin gently. Lisa giggled when it tickled her neck with its legs. She had raised Charlotte from a baby, and the deadly creature trusted her completely. Meanwhile, the alien delegates were preparing to board the human station. Ambassador Veltar led the group. He was tall and thin with blue-green skin and 4 arms. His people were peaceful plant-eaters who feared all predators. The thought of meeting humans made him nervous, but his job was to learn about these strange beings. "Remember," Veltar told his team as they put on their protective suits, "humans are reported to be very dangerous. They eat meat and fight wars. Stay close together and do not touch anything without scanning it first." The Zephyrian team stepped carefully onto the human station. The air smelled different here, full of strange chemical scents they didn't recognize. Human soldiers in uniform stood at attention, but they smiled and nodded in a friendly way. This confused the aliens, who expected warriors to be serious and threatening. Commander Ryan Phillips met them at the airlock. He was a big man with short, brown hair and kind eyes. "Welcome aboard," he said with a wide grin. "We're so excited to meet you. Dr. Thompson, our best scientist, can't wait to show you around." The aliens followed Ryan through the station's hallways. They saw humans everywhere, working, talking, laughing. Some of them were very small, which the aliens learned were called children. The young humans ran around playing games while the adults watched them with gentle expressions. "Your species keeps its young ones in the same area as warriors?" Veltar asked in surprise. Ryan looked confused. "Warriors? Oh, you mean our crew." "Well, yes, families live together. Children belong with their parents." This made no sense to the Zephyrians. In their culture, young ones were kept far away from anyone who might hurt them. But these humans seemed to trust each other completely. They arrived at Dr. Thompson's lab. Lisa stood waiting for them, still wearing her work clothes covered in animal hair and food stains. Her face lit up when she saw the visitors. "Oh, wonderful. You're here," she said happily. "I have so much to show you. Come, you have to meet my babies." She led them into her personal quarters where dozens of glass containers lined the walls. The aliens looked around nervously. Strange sounds came from inside the boxes, clicking, hissing, and scratching noises that made their skin crawl. Lisa walked over to one large container and opened the lid. "This is my pride and joy," she said, reaching inside carefully. The aliens watched in horror as she pulled out the biggest spider they had ever seen. It was the size of a dinner plate, with thick hairy legs and fangs that gleamed like tiny knives. Poison dripped from its mouth as it moved. "Everyone meet Charlotte," Lisa said cheerfully, holding the deadly creature close to her face. "Isn't she just the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? Look at those gorgeous eyes, all 8 of them." Ambassador Veltar made a choking sound. His forearms shook as he pointed at the spider. That is a Category 5 predator. It could kill you in seconds." Lisa laughed. "Kill me?" Charlotte wouldn't hurt a fly. Well, actually, she would hurt a fly because that's what she eats. But she's perfectly safe with humans. We understand each other. The spider crawled up Lisa's shoulder and sat near her ear. She reached up and gently petted its back with one finger. The creature seemed to enjoy this, moving its legs in what looked almost like happiness. "See how gentle she is?" Lisa continued. "I've had Charlotte for 3 years now. She even recognizes her name. Watch this. Charlotte, wave hello to our guests." The spider lifted one leg and moved it back and forth. The alien delegates stumbled backward, hitting the wall in their rush to get away from the monster. Commander Ryan Phillips appeared in the doorway, drawn by the commotion. "Is everything okay in here?" he asked. "Perfect," Lisa replied. "I was just introducing Charlotte to our new friends. They seem very interested in Earth biology." Ryan smiled broadly. "That's great. You should show them the rest of your collection. And Amy down in engineering has been dying to show off Whiskers to someone new." The aliens looked at each other with growing panic. If this was just one human's pet collection, what other horrors awaited them on this station? News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within hours of the first meeting, every alien civilization knew about the humans and their terrible secret. The video footage from the space station spread like wildfire through the galactic communication networks. Billions of alien beings watched in shock as Dr. Lisa Thompson played with the deadly spider like it was a harmless toy. On the planet, Zephyr Prime, the Planetary Council held an emergency meeting. The Great Hall buzzed with frightened voices as representatives from dozens of species gathered around glowing screens. They watched the human footage over and over, trying to understand what they were seeing. "Look at how calm she is," whispered Council Member Trixon, pointing at the screen with a shaking tentacle. "The predator could strike at any moment, but she shows no fear at all." "It's not natural," replied Elder Vorth, his scales turning pale blue with worry. "No intelligent species should be able to control apex predators like this. The humans must have some kind of mind control technology." Back on the human space station, Commander Ryan Phillips was getting strange messages from all over the galaxy. His communication officer handed him report after report, each one more confusing than the last. "Sir, the Galactic Defense Force wants to know if we've weaponized our animal companions," she said, reading from her screen. "The Crystalline Empire is asking about our biological warfare capabilities, and the Peaceful Alliance wants to schedule an emergency meeting about humanity's threat to galactic safety." Ryan scratched his head. "Biological warfare? What are they talking about? We're just showing them our pets." Down in the engineering section, Amy Johnson was having lunch with her cat, Whiskers. The orange and white creature sat on her lap, purring loudly as she scratched behind its ears. Whiskers was a normal house cat from Earth, but to alien eyes he looked like a perfect killing machine. The cat had sharp claws that could extend from his paws like tiny daggers. His teeth were designed for tearing meat, and his eyes could see, in the dark like a hunter. When he purred, the sound came through the alien translation devices as a low, threatening growl. "You're such a good boy," Amy cooed, feeding Whiskers small pieces of fish from her plate. "Yes, you are. You're the sweetest little predator in the whole galaxy." Unknown to Amy, several alien spy devices were recording everything. The footage of her feeding the razor-clawed beast, while it made threatening sounds, would soon reach every corner of known space. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her office on Earth, staring at urgent messages that made no sense. The most powerful military leaders in the galaxy were demanding explanations about humanity's secret weapons program. Some were asking for peace treaties. Others were making barely hidden threats. "Get me Dr. Ben Clark," she told her assistant. If anyone can explain what's happening, it's our top animal expert. Dr. Ben Clark was Earth's most famous animal behaviorist. He had spent his whole life studying how different species interact with each other. When he received the Admiral's call, he was playing fetch with his dog Max in his backyard. Max was a golden retriever, friendly and gentle with everyone he met, but he weighed 75 pounds of solid muscle with jaws strong enough to crack bones. His bark could be heard from miles away, and when he ran, the ground shook under his feet. "I don't understand the problem," Ben told the Admiral over the phone while Max brought him a tennis ball. "We've been living with animals for thousands of years. It's the most natural thing in the world." The Admiral explained about the alien, panic, and the urgent need for experts to address the galactic community. Within hours, Ben found himself on a spaceship heading to the neutral zone for an emergency xenobiology conference. The conference was held on a massive space station that belonged to no single species. Representatives from hundreds of different worlds gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. They all wanted to hear the human expert explain how his people had achieved the impossible. Ben walked onto the stage, carrying a small device that projected three-dimensional images. He smiled at the audience, not noticing how they all leaned back in their seats when he appeared. "Thank you for inviting me," he began cheerfully. "I'm excited to share with you the wonderful relationships humans have, built with Earth's animals over many centuries." He pressed a button and the first image appeared above his head. It showed a human family in their backyard with a large dog. The children were small, maybe 5 and 7 years old. They were throwing a ball while the massive animal chased after it, its mouth open and teeth showing. Several aliens in the front row made choking sounds. The dog in the image was clearly large enough to kill both children with one bite, yet they seemed completely unafraid. "This is a typical family scene on Earth," Ben continued happily. "Dogs and humans have been companions for over 15,000 years. They help us hunt, guard our homes, and provide emotional support." The next image showed an elderly human woman sitting in a chair with a cat on her lap. The cat was kneading its claws against her legs, pushing the sharp points in and out of its paws repeatedly. The woman looked peaceful and content. "Cats are wonderful companions too," Ben explained. "They're excellent hunters who help control pest populations. This grandmother has had cats her whole life." In the audience, the Pacifist Coalition representative fainted, the sight of a vulnerable elderly human allowing a predator to practice its killing motions on her body was too much to handle. Ben showed image after image, humans riding on the backs of enormous four-legged creatures called horses, children swimming with dolphins in the ocean, families camping while wolves howled. In the distance, each picture seemed more impossible than the last. "The key to these relationships," Ben said, "is trust and mutual benefit. Animals provide us with companionship, protection, and help with work. We provide them with food, shelter, and medical care. It's a partnership that benefits everyone." The audience sat in stunned silence. The human was describing a level of interspecies cooperation that defied everything they knew about biology and survival. Predators and prey living together peacefully was impossible according to all known science. After the presentation, the questions came fast and desperate. "How do you control their predatory instincts?" asked a crystalline delegate. "We don't control them," Ben replied, confused. "We just treat them with kindness and respect." "What technology do you use to suppress their aggression?" demanded a representative from the warrior clans. "No technology at all. We just understand that most animals aren't naturally aggressive toward beings who care for them." The aliens looked at each other with growing fear. If humans could form these impossible bonds without any special equipment or mental powers, then they truly were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. As Ben left the conference, he had no idea that his presentation had just convinced half the galaxy that humans were planning to conquer the universe using armies of domesticated super predators. Senator Carol Wright had an idea. The humans needed to show the galaxy that they meant no harm. The best way to do this, she thought, was to demonstrate how peaceful and friendly their animal companions really were. She proposed a cultural exchange, an event that would help other species understand human-animal relationships. "We'll call it a pet show," she announced to the Galactic Council. "Humans will bring their beloved companions to Harmony Point Station. You can see for yourselves how gentle and harmless these creatures are. The alien representatives agreed nervously. They were curious to observe human behavior more closely, even though the idea terrified them. The event was scheduled for the following week at the neutral space station that sat between human and alien territories. Captain Steve Davis was put in charge of security for the event. He thought it would be easy work. After all, how dangerous could a simple pet show be? He brought only a small team of guards and told them to stay relaxed and friendly. Dr. Helen Foster coordinated the event from the human side. She sent messages to human families across the galaxy, inviting them to participate. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of people signed up to bring their pets and show them off to alien visitors. The day of the event arrived. The main hall of Harmony Point station was decorated with colorful banners and comfortable seating areas. Tables were set up for refreshments, and a small stage was built at one end of the room for presentations. The alien delegates arrived first. They wore their best ceremonial clothing and carried recording devices to document everything they saw. Ambassador Veltar led the Zephyrian group, still nervous but determined to understand these strange humans. The Crystalline Empire sent representatives who looked like living diamonds. The Nebuloid Collective appeared as floating clouds of gas. In containment suits, the Pacifist Coalition arrived in groups, their soft, round bodies trembling with anxiety. Then the humans began to arrive with their pets. The first contestant was a middle-aged man named Bob Wilson. He walked into the hall, carrying a large cage, covered with a cloth. "This is my prize-winning python, Ruby," he announced proudly as he set the cage on a table. He pulled away the cloth to reveal a snake as thick as a man's arm and longer than most aliens were tall. Ruby's scales gleamed under the lights and her eyes were cold and unblinking. When she moved, her muscles rippled under her skin like liquid metal. 3 crystalline delegates immediately shattered into defensive fragments. The sound of breaking crystal filled the air as they tried to protect themselves from what they saw as a massive predator. "Don't worry," Bob said cheerfully, opening the cage. "Ruby's completely harmless. She's never bitten anyone." He reached in and lifted the enormous snake, draping her around his neck like a living scarf. The aliens backed away in terror. The snake was clearly large enough to crush a human to death, yet Bob seemed completely comfortable with it wrapped around his throat. Next came a young woman named Jenny Martinez with her German Shepherd Rex. The dog was huge, standing waist-high to his owner and weighing over 90 pounds. His ears were pointed and alert, and his mouth hung open, showing rows of sharp white teeth. "Rex loves meeting new people," Jenny said as the dog trotted beside her on a leash. "He's very social." Rex spotted the alien visitors and his tail began wagging excitedly. He pulled toward them, wanting to investigate these strange new creatures. To the aliens, it looked like a massive predator straining to attack them. The Pacifist Coalition representative made a high-pitched squeaking sound and tried to hide behind a potted plant. The Nebuloid delegate dispersed so quickly that their containment suit collapsed empty on the floor. "Rex, sit," Jenny commanded. The enormous predator immediately dropped to the ground and looked up at her with adoring eyes. The aliens were amazed. The human had just given a simple verbal command, and the deadly creature had obeyed instantly. The situation got worse when technical specialist Greg Miller arrived with his tarantula collection. He carried several glass containers, each holding a different species of giant spider from Earth. "This is Fuzzy," he said, opening one container and allowing a spider the size of a dinner plate to crawl onto his hand. "She's just a baby, only 2 years old. Tarantulas can live for 30 years or more." Fuzzy had thick, hairy legs and fangs that gleamed like black needles. When Greg held her close to his face, the aliens could see venom glistening on her fangs. Yet the human smiled and spoke to the deadly creature in soft, loving tones. "Isn't she beautiful?" Greg continued. "Look at those gorgeous colors on her abdomen. And she's so gentle, she wouldn't hurt a fly." The irony was completely lost on the aliens, who knew that creatures like this one could hunt and kill animals much larger than flies. Dr. Nancy White tried to calm the situation by bringing out what she considered the gentlest pet of all, her house cat, Princess. Princess was a small gray tabby who had spent her whole life indoors. sleeping on soft cushions and eating prepared food from a bowl. But to alien eyes, Princess was a perfect predator. Her retractable claws extended and retracted as she needed Nancy's arms. Her pupils dilated in the bright lights, giving her an intense, focused stare. When she opened her mouth to yawn, her sharp canine teeth were clearly visible. Princess began to purr, the sound vibrating through her small body. Through the alien translation devices, the purring came across as a low, threatening growl. The sound suggested a predator expressing satisfaction after a successful hunt. "She's telling us she's happy," Nancy explained, stroking the cat's fur. "Cats purr when they're content." The warrior clan delegate, who prided himself on his courage, took a step backward. Even he had never heard a more menacing sound than that continuous, rumbling growl. The final disaster came when someone brought their pet parrot. The colorful bird sat on its owner's shoulder, occasionally squawking out words in perfect human language. "Hello there," the parrot said clearly, looking directly at the alien visitors. "Pretty bird. Want a cracker?" The aliens were horrified. Not only had humans enslaved deadly predators, but they had also captured and trained sentient beings, capable of speech. The bird was clearly intelligent enough to communicate, yet it seemed to be held as a prisoner by its human captor. The pet show ended in complete chaos. Alarms rang as emergency medical teams rushed to help the aliens who had fainted, shattered, or dispersed. Security guards ran around trying to restore order while humans stood in confusion, holding their pets and wondering what had gone wrong. Captain Steve Davis surveyed the destruction in amazement. Tables were overturned, medical equipment was scattered everywhere, and several alien delegates were being carried out on stretchers. He had never seen such panic caused by such harmless creatures. "I don't understand," he said to Dr. Helen Foster, as they watched the last of the alien visitors flee toward their ships. "These are just ordinary pets. My grandmother has a cat just like Princess." Dr. Foster shook her head in bewilderment. "Maybe they're not used to animals where they come from. We should probably send an apology message." As the news of the pet show disaster spread across the galaxy, alien civilizations began to panic even more. The humans had just demonstrated that they could control not only individual monsters, but entire collections of different predator species. Even worse, they seemed to find the whole situation amusing rather than dangerous. Emergency meetings were called on dozens of worlds as alien leaders tried to figure out how to respond to what they saw as humanity's declaration of biological warfare capabilities. The news of the pet show disaster reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. On world after world, alien leaders watched the recordings in horror. They saw humans casually handling creatures that could kill them in seconds. They watched as deadly predators obeyed human commands without question. Most terrifying of all, they saw humans smiling and laughing while surrounded by biological weapons. On the planet Crystalla, the Diamond Council met in their great crystal chamber. The room sparkled with thousands of lights as the council members vibrated with fear. Their bodies, made of living crystal, changed colors rapidly as they discussed the human threat. "They have enslaved speaking creatures," announced High Counselor Zektra, his crystalline form flashing red with alarm. "We saw the evidence. The colorful flying predator spoke perfect human language. They have broken the minds of intelligent beings and forced them to serve." "Worse than that," replied Elder Melnira, her diamond body turning deep purple with worry. "They bring their young ones to these demonstrations." Human children watched as their parents displayed weapons of mass destruction. They are training the next generation to see violence as normal. Similar meetings were happening across the galaxy. The Nebuloid Collective gathered in their gas giant homeworld, their cloud-like bodies swirling with anxiety. The warrior clans, who prided themselves on their courage, were making emergency battle plans. Even the peaceful plant people of Garden World were growing defensive thorns for the first time in centuries. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Alex Turner sat in his office trying to make sense of the flood of alien communications. His desk was covered with printouts of messages that seemed to make no sense at all. "Mr. President," his secretary said, bringing in another stack of papers, We're getting formal complaints from 47 different species. They're demanding that we cease all biological weapons development and surrender our domesticated arsenal to neutral parties. President Turner picked up one of the messages and read it aloud. The Galactic Health Organization demands immediate inspection of all Category 5 biological hazards currently held by human civilians. He looked up at his secretary. What's a Category 5 biological hazard? His secretary shrugged. We're not sure, sir, but they keep mentioning our pets. Colonel Dan Brown, head of Earth's Interstellar Defense Command, was having an even stranger day. His intelligence officers brought him reports that made no sense. Alien military ships were gathering at the edges of human space. Intercepted communications talked about something called the human problem. Sir, said his chief intelligence officer, 3 different alien civilizations have started building what they call planet crackers. According to our sources, these are weapons designed specifically to destroy entire worlds. Colonel Brown stared at the report. Planet crackers? Why would they want to destroy planets? The communications suggest they're planning to use them on Earth, sir. They seem to think we're planning to unleash our pets as weapons against the galaxy. Dan Brown had 2 dogs at home, both gentle golden retrievers who spent most of their time sleeping on his couch. The idea that anyone would consider them weapons was so ridiculous he almost laughed. Almost. Except for the fact that alien civilizations were apparently building planet-destroying weapons because of it. Dr. Kim Taylor, Earth's most famous veterinarian, received an invitation that confused her completely. The message came from the Galactic Health Organization, asking her to attend an urgent meeting about interspecies biological control methods. Kim thought they wanted to discuss animal medicine, so she packed her medical bag and took a shuttle to the meeting point. When she arrived at the neutral space station, she found herself in a room full of terrified alien beings wearing protective suits. Dr. Taylor, said the lead investigator, a tall alien with gray skin and multiple eyes. We need to understand your methods for controlling apex predators. How do you maintain psychological dominance over creatures that could kill you instantly? Kim looked around the room in confusion. I'm sorry, I think there's been a mistake. I'm a veterinarian. I help sick animals feel better. The aliens exchanged worried glances. You admit to manipulating the mental states of dangerous creatures? Well, I try to keep them calm during medical procedures, Kim replied honestly. Scared, animals can hurt themselves or others. The investigator made rapid notes. And your technique for rendering them unconscious during these procedures? You mean anesthesia? We put them to sleep so they don't feel pain during surgery. 3 alien delegates immediately left the room. The phrase "put them to sleep" had triggered their translation devices to suggest that humans routinely killed their biological weapons and then brought them back to life. Back on Earth, things were getting worse by the hour. Blogger and social media influencer Zoe Martinez had no idea she was making the situation more dangerous when she posted her daily video blog. Happy Friday, everyone, she said cheerfully to her camera, sitting in her living room with her 3 cats. Today is National Puppy Day, so I'm going to share some of my favorite dog videos from around the world. She showed clip after clip of humans with their dogs. There were videos of children playing fetch, families going for walks, and people teaching their pets new tricks. To human eyes, it was heartwarming content showing the love between species. But when the video reached alien networks, it looked like something else entirely. They saw thousands of humans simultaneously demonstrating their control over pack hunting predators. The dogs in the videos were large, powerful creatures with bone-crushing jaws, yet they obeyed human commands perfectly. Look at this cute little guy, Zoe said, showing a video of a tiny chihuahua barking at a much larger dog. He thinks he's so tough. The aliens watching were horrified. The small creature was clearly threatening a much larger predator, and the larger one was backing down. This suggested that humans had bred different sizes of the same deadly species for different tactical purposes. The video went viral across the galaxy for all the wrong reasons. Within hours, it had been viewed by billions of alien beings who saw it as proof that humans were planning a coordinated attack using their domesticated armies. Emergency sessions were called in galactic governments everywhere. The Peaceful Alliance, which had never fought a war in their entire history, began discussing military options. The Trade Federation started imposing sanctions on human space. The Scientific Consortium began developing new types of protective equipment. On the planet Harmony, the local government made the decision to evacuate their entire population to underground shelters. The idea of humans arriving with their biological weapons was too terrifying to risk. The situation reached its peak when the Zephyrian Council made a formal announcement to the entire galaxy. Ambassador Veltar, still shaking from his experience at the pet show, delivered a speech that was broadcast on every world. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," he said, his voice trembling with fear, "we have discovered that the humans possess the most dangerous biological weapons ever encountered. They have somehow learned to control the minds of apex predators, turning them into obedient servants." He showed footage from the pet show, focusing on the moments that looked most threatening to alien eyes. These creatures could devastate entire worlds if released. The humans have demonstrated the ability to command them with simple spoken words. They show no fear because they have complete dominance over these monsters. The broadcast continued with clips of children playing with dogs, families walking with cats, and people riding horses. To the watching aliens, it looked like a demonstration of humanity's complete control over the animal kingdom. "We believe the humans are preparing for galactic conquest," Veltar concluded. "They have spent thousands of years building their biological arsenal. Now they are ready to use it against us." As the broadcast ended, panic spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On Earth, President Turner's communication systems were overloaded with messages from terrified alien civilizations. Some were begging for mercy. Others were making threats. A few were offering to surrender immediately if humans promised not to release their pets. The humans were completely baffled by the response. They had been trying to make friends with their galactic neighbors by sharing the joy of pet ownership. Instead, they had accidentally convinced the entire galaxy that they were planning to conquer the universe with armies of domesticated animals. As Colonel Brown looked at the reports of alien military buildup around human space, he realized that the galaxy was preparing for war, a war that would start because nobody understood that humans simply loved their pets. Dr. Tony Clark was a young language expert who worked at Earth's main translation center. He spent his days listening to alien communications and trying to understand what they really meant. As the crisis grew worse, he noticed something strange about the way aliens talked about human pets. Tony sat in his small office, surrounded by computer screens showing alien text in dozens of different languages. He had been working for 3 days straight, trying to figure out why the galaxy thought humans were planning a war. "Laura, come look at this," he called to his colleague, communications specialist Laura Johnson, who worked in the office next to his. Laura hurried over, bringing her coffee and a stack of alien dictionaries. She was tired too, but she knew this was important work. The whole galaxy seemed ready to attack Earth, and nobody understood why. "Look at this word," Tony said, pointing at his screen. "When we say pet in English, their computers translate it as controlled biological weapon. And when we say adorable, their systems think we mean tactically advantageous in combat." Laura leaned closer to read the text. "That's not right at all. No wonder they're scared." Tony pulled up more examples. "It gets worse. When humans talk about loyalty and companionship, their translation devices show psychological dominance and battlefield cooperation. They think we're describing military tactics, not friendship." The two young scientists worked together for hours, checking translation after translation. They discovered that the alien language systems had no words for the emotional bonds between different species. The concept of love between humans and animals simply did not exist in alien cultures. "We need to show them what we really mean," Laura said. "But how do you explain love to beings who have never felt it?" Tony had an idea. "What if we arranged a demonstration? Not like the pet show, something smaller and more controlled. We need to show them that our relationships with animals are based on feelings, not domination." They took their findings to Commander Nick Parker, who was in charge of diplomatic communications. Nick was a practical man who understood that the galaxy was close to war over a simple misunderstanding. "Can you fix this?" he asked after reading their report. "We think so," Tony replied. "But we need to be very careful about who we invite and what we show them. We need aliens who are willing to listen, not ones who are already too scared to think clearly." Nick agreed to help them set up a new meeting. This time, they would only invite a few alien representatives, ones who had shown interest in learning rather than just making accusations. The meeting would be held on a small research station with heavy security to make everyone feel safe. Dr. Susan Wright, a child psychologist, was asked to help with the demonstration. She suggested they show the aliens something that could not be misunderstood: the relationship between human children and baby animals. "Young creatures are vulnerable in every species," she explained. "If we can show aliens that our children are safe with baby animals, they might understand that there's no danger involved." The day of the demonstration arrived. Only 5 alien representatives came to the small station. Ambassador Veltar was there, still nervous but willing to try to understand. The others were scientists and diplomats who genuinely wanted to learn about human behavior. They were brought to a simple room with comfortable chairs and soft lighting. Dr. Wright sat in the center with her 5-year-old daughter, Emma Peterson. Emma was the daughter of station engineer Paul Peterson, and she had grown up around the research station. Emma sat on the floor with a small puppy in her lap. The puppy was only 8 weeks old, fluffy and barely larger than Emma's hands. It was clearly a baby, helpless and dependent on others for care. "This is Buddy," Emma said in her clear, high voice. "He's my new friend." The aliens watched carefully as the little girl gently petted the tiny animal. The puppy made soft whimpering sounds and tried to lick Emma's face with its small pink tongue. Emma giggled and hugged the puppy closer. "Buddy gets scared sometimes," Emma continued, "so I have to be very gentle with him. Mommy says baby animals need lots of love to grow up healthy and strong." The puppy fell asleep in Emma's arms, breathing slowly and peacefully. The little girl held him carefully, making sure not to wake him. She hummed a quiet song while rocking back and forth slightly. Ambassador Veltar felt something strange happening in his chest. For the first time, he was seeing a human child's complete vulnerability and trust. Emma was not trying to control or dominate the baby animal. She was protecting it, caring for it, loving it. "The small human shows no fear," Veltar whispered to his companion, "but she is not demonstrating power over the creature. She is being kind to it." Dr. Wright spoke softly to the alien observers. "Emma doesn't think of Buddy as a weapon or a tool. To her, he's a friend who needs her help and protection. That's what we mean when we say we love our animals." The aliens began to understand something they had never encountered before. The humans were not controlling these creatures through fear or technology. They were forming emotional bonds, connections of the heart rather than the mind. Another demonstration followed. A teenage boy named Sam Foster brought his elderly cat, Mittens. Mittens was 16 years old, slow-moving and nearly blind. She could barely walk across the room without help. "Mittens used to be very active," Sam explained as he gently carried the old cat. "But now she needs special care. I give her medicine every day and make sure she stays warm and comfortable." The aliens watched as Sam carefully placed soft blankets around the aging animal and offered her small pieces of food by hand. Mittens purred weakly and nuzzled against Sam's hand. "This creature is no longer useful for any practical purpose," observed one of the alien scientists. "Yet the human continues to care for it. Why?" "Because I love her," Sam said simply. "She was my friend when I was little. Now that she's old and sick, I want to make sure she's happy for whatever time she has left." The concept was revolutionary to the alien observers. In their cultures, relationships were based on mutual benefit and survival advantage. The idea of caring for another being simply because you felt affection for it was completely new. Dr. Tony Clark and Laura Johnson worked with the alien delegates for the rest of the day, developing new translation protocols. They created new, words and phrases that could better express the emotional aspects of human-animal relationships. The breakthrough moment came when Ambassador Veltar finally understood the difference between controlling and caring for another creature. The translation devices began showing more accurate meanings for human words about pets and companionship. Your species forms emotional attachments across biological boundaries, Veltar said with wonder in his voice. You do not seek to dominate other creatures. You seek to love them. News of the successful meeting spread quickly through diplomatic channels. Within days, the alien military buildup began to slow down. The planet-cracking weapons were put away. Emergency evacuation orders were canceled. The Galactic Council established a new research program called the Human-Animal Bond Research Initiative. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, Earth's top expert on animal psychology, was chosen to lead the project. Alien scientists from across the galaxy signed up to study this amazing phenomenon. What had started as a potential interstellar war became the galaxy's first comprehensive study of interspecies emotional attachment. Alien researchers came to Earth to observe human families with their pets. They watched in amazement as children played with puppies, as elderly people found comfort in the company of cats, and as farmers worked alongside horses and dogs. Captain Rachel Moore was given command of a new ship called the Friendship. Her job was to escort alien research teams safely to Earth and back. The ship became a symbol of the new understanding between humans and the galaxy. 6 months later, the first Galactic Pet Adoption Center opened on Harmony Station. Commander Joe Williams was put in charge of the facility, where aliens could carefully learn to interact with gentle Earth animals, specially chosen for their calm temperaments. The most popular video in galactic history showed a massive crystalline warrior gently holding a small guinea pig. The warrior's crystal body glowed with soft, warm colors as the tiny animal nestled safely in his arms. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched in wonder as they witnessed their first example of interspecies love. The galaxy discovered that humans had not been planning conquest with biological weapons. Instead, they had been demonstrating something far more powerful, the ability to care for other living beings simply because caring felt good. This lesson would change the galaxy forever, proving that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the courage to be gentle.